Data deduplication has to be installed on your servers first. So what I'm going to do is just go to Add Roles and Features, Role-Based Installation. That is the local machine I'm on, RTS-DC1. When we get to our Select Server Roles, under File and Storage Services, if we expand File and iSCSI, you'll see DFS Namespace is in the list. And I'm going to add these components here, just the management tools. And DFS Replication is also on the list. I'm going to add that as well. And we will accept the defaults for everything else, and that will install. What I'm going to do is actually minimize this. And I also need to install this on my other server, RTS Serve 1. Now, I could go back to the Hyper-V Manager and remotely connect to RTS Serve 1. That would certainly work and just do the same thing we just did. Or I can go to my all servers here, and I'm going to add RTS Serve 1 to this console. So I'm going to just add server. This is looking in Active Directory. So when I choose Find Now, I'll see both RTS DC1 and RTS Serve 1 show up. So I'm going to choose my RTS Serve 1. I'm just going to add that and OK. It'll take just a moment, but that will connect. It's connected. So now I'm going to right-click RTS Serve 1, and I'm going to add roles and features. And we're choosing exactly the same options we just did for RTS-DC1. So role-based, RTS Serve 1 is selected. File and storage, file and iSCSI, DFS namespace, and DFS replication. And we're accepting the defaults for everything else, and that will install. It takes just a moment to install. It's not a big service. I don't need to keep this window open. I can close that, and it'll just finish installing on the back end. And if I go back to the one here, I can see that finish installing as well. So we know that's done. Now, let's create a scenario. So I am going to go back to RTS Serve 1 for a moment. So I'm going to minimize RTS DC1. And I'm going to pull up RTS Serve 1 here. And on the desktop of this machine, I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to name it East-Sales. And I'm going to share the folder. So I'm going to go to Properties. On the Sharing tab, I'm just going to click Advanced and share this folder. I'm not really concerned about the individual permissions. And I am going to put something in it just so we can kind of verify that it is working. So I'm going to create a new file. And I'm just going to name the file January Sales, or Jan Sales rather. So if I just browse, just to make sure it does work, //RTS-SVR1, I can see East Sales as a shared folder and has a Jan Sales file in it. So I know my share is working just fine. So I'm going to leave RTS Serve 1, and I'm going to go back to RTS-DC1. Now, the problem we have right now, if I'm a user on the network, if I want to browse that East Sales, I have to know the path is on RTS Serve 1 if I want to open the East Sales. Well, let's say on the local machine I'm on here, RTS DC1, I have a folder here, and it's Southwest Sales. But we'll say it's just named SW Sales. And this is a shared folder as well. So if I go to the Sharing, Advanced, we'll just share and OK. You see the problem this poses for my users. Right now, they would have to browse RTS Serve 1 to see eSales. They would have to browse DC1 if they wanted to see Southwest Sales. Then if you have Northwest Sales on another folder, they have to browse all these different locations, and that's just confusing. Where the namespace comes in, we are going to create a hierarchy for my users, so it's going to look like Southwest and my eSales are all part of a hierarchical structure, even though they're really not. So if we go back to Server Manager, in Server Manager, I'm going to go to Tools, and DFS Management is now in the list. In my DFS Management, you'll see Namespace and Replication both show up in the same console. But I'm going to select my namespace, and I'm going to create a new namespace. Now it says what server is going to host this namespace. I'm just going to use the machine I'm on, RTS-DC1. And what do we want to name the namespace? Well, I'm just going to name it Sales. So I'll click Next for that. Now it says, do you want a domain-based namespace or standalone? I love this layout in the screen because it gives you the difference here. Notice if you look at standalone, it says this is stored on a single namespace server. And if you want to make this highly available, you need to add it to a failover cluster. But more important than that, if you look at the UNC path here, it's / RTS-DC1. So you still have to know the name of a server if you want to connect to this. If we look at domain-based, which is the default, it says a domain-based namespace is stored on one or more namespace servers and in Active Directory domain services. You can increase the availability of domain-based by using multiple servers. So this is automatically a highly available solution for us. You just have to use Server 2008 or newer. That is not a concern anymore. No chance you're using a server older than that. Notice the path. It's / rtsnetworking.com/sales. So you need not know the name of any server that hosts any of this data. You can simply browse the name of the domain and you will see this namespace show up. Well, that's the one we want, domain-based. So I'm going to choose Next for that. And that is the namespace. Done. So if I go back to the run box on my server here, I'm going to type / rtsnetworking.com and I see the shares show up. So this does give me all the shares on my server, but notice the sales shows up. We know that's actually the namespace. It's not a shared folder. The actual shared folder is SW sales. Well, what I can do, if we go back to DFS management and I'm going to open my namespace, if we expand that, what I can do is add a new folder to it. So I'm just going to click new folder and it says, what do you want to name this new folder? This explains everything. I'm going to name this East. Now see what it did. / rtsnetworking.com/sales, which is the namespace, /east. What I'm doing is saying if somebody browses this east path, you actually connect them to this target. So I'm going to browse and I'm going to choose RTS SVR1. That's the shared folder on the other machine on RTS Serve 1, the eSales. So when I click OK and OK, this explains everything. When you browse this RTS networking /sales, you'll see the East folder. You're really looking at what is a shortcut that points back to RTS Serve 1 and that East sales share. Pretty fascinating. And I could do that again. I could create another new folder, and I'm going to name this one Southwest. I'm going to add a target. And this time the target's actually going to be the machine I'm already on, the Southwest sales, SW-sales. So I'll OK that and OK and OK. Now, this simplifies the process for my users. If I go back to the shares we browsed, so that sales, everything about this looks like a shared folder, but we know it's actually the namespace. If I open the sales namespace, you now see East and Southwest as if they are subfolders in that sales share. We know they're not. One way you know they're not is because they have this shortcut icon on them. But if I open the East, that's the Jan sales file from the East. So you could simply add, if we go back, you could add to your namespace a folder for every region that has one of these folders. So Northwest, Midwest, every location you actually have, and it's going to make it look like it's in a hierarchy. So the beauty of this, if I go back one more view, my users could simply have a map drive that goes to rtsnetworking.com/sales. This could be a map drive. If they heavily access this content, they would never be aware that it lives on, in my picture here, they would never be aware that this resides on two completely different physical servers. They would never have a need to know that. So that is the sole purpose of a namespace. Take files from remote servers and make them appear in a hierarchical view just to increase the user experience. Pretty awesome and very straightforward.